So on Tuesday, actor Ben Stein made a little bit of a ridiculous comparison when talking about AOC and specifically her tax proposals to tax wealthy people who making over $10 million at 70% for anything over that $10 million. Now, he made this comparison, like I said, on Fox News when talking about the situation in, surprise, Venezuela. Let's take a look.
I mean, they've tried, right? They tried, and Hugo Chavez had all kinds of promises, just like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Maduro had the same kind of promises. In fact, and we're going to show this a little bit later, the former vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, I say former because we no longer recognize her regime there with Maduro, she'll sit there and tell you with a straight face that Venezuela is the model of the world, despite the fact that 90% of the people live in poverty. Venezuela has figured it out. I just hope, Ben, we don't go through the same kind of incarnations and challenges that they have had to deal with?
Well, it depends on education. I mean, we have a society in which there are an awful lot of people who have no idea that Stalin, Hitler, Mao Zedong all came to power promising the same kinds of things that Ms. Ocasio-Cortez is promising, and it led to mass murder, led to dictatorship, it led to genocide. These promises are old promises, and they invariably lead to bad things.
Over 90% of Venezuelans live in poverty. I'm sorry. I had to on that one. Like, it's almost like she's like so proud delivering this. She's like so focused on saying how horrible Venezuela is. And look, the situation in Venezuela is terrible. And so, you know, you can't ignore that. But at the same time, wait, you're going to compare AOC's modest tax proposal for marginal taxes on the ultra wealthy to not only Venezuela, but now Stalin, Hitler, and Mao Zedong. Oh no, they had all these promises about marginal tax rates. No, I don't think that's what happened. I don't remember Hitler promising a 70% tax rate on ultra wealthy Germans. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. But you know what I do recall seeing in history? In the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, the middle class growing, right? And having a high marginal tax rate on the rich, sometimes in excess of 70%. In fact, 70%, it never dipped below. So, I'm just saying. Now, of course, Ben Stein leaves out more context. He leaves out the fact that there was, in these countries, pre-revolution, institutional corruption and rampant poverty, high levels of wealth and income inequality. You know what those things lead to? Those kind of lead to revolutions. And so, Now, unfortunately, those revolutions ended up oftentimes in oppressive dictatorships, which we have seen. But the situation, like what leads to this, is all of those different factors that right now in America, we are absolutely ignoring. Rich people are saying, oh no, have some cake. While there are people literally in Alabama getting hookworm because they lack basic sanitation. Oh, but here, this cake is delicious. How about you have some of it? Look, I'm just saying, maybe they should stop telling us to eat that cake, and maybe they should start paying their fair share of taxes so that we as a society can actually take care of our own and have nice things. But of course, that's not going to happen, and he's going to continue with this terrible, terrible comparison. Take a look.
The promise of just saying to people, do what you can within the law to make your life better and your family's life better, that system works extremely well. Capitalism is a system that allows people to make something of themselves instead of oppressing other people. It's an incredibly good system. Making money is one of the most harmless things there is to do in the whole world, and that's what our society is about. It's not about ordering people around, putting them in concentration camps. What do you do if a person is a richer person and a poorer person? What do? You take him away? Do you shoot him? Well, that's what the communists tried. It didn't work out very well for them.
I mean, what do you do as a rich and poor person? You take them out and shoot. Well, that escalated very quickly. Nobody is talking about shooting rich people. what we're talking about, and I love how it's compared to the same thing, right? Asking people making over $10 million a year to contribute more in taxes is somehow the same thing as taking rich people out and shooting them. That is ridiculous. And I love how he says, well, what's wrong with making money? Making money is one of the most harmless things that you can do. Actually, no, it depends on how you do it. See, if you exploit people and their labor to make money, well, then it's not harmless. If you destroy natural habitats, pollute rivers and streams, or pollute the air and the soil, well, that's not harmless. If you pay your employees so little that they're destitute while you're buying a second yacht, that's not harmless. If you go to other countries and exploit native populations for, natural resources, like, for example, blood diamonds, that is not harmless. Or, when you have places in Bangladesh that are so lax on safety measures that buildings literally catch on fire and fall on top of you while you're working for substandard wages. That's not harmless. So, excuse me if I don't agree with that premise that, oh no, making money is the most harmless thing that you can do. Says somebody who's never actually probably had to work. Look, right now, what we have is a situation where there are so many companies now, and American capitalism is built on the backs of regular working people, and it's an inherently exploitive practice. So that's what's going on here, right? That's the kind of situation that does lead eventually to violent revolution, and I don't want that. I don't know anybody who wants violent revolution, right? I abhor violence. I'm a non-violence person, right? I'm just saying that historically, it has turned out that once you have situations that are bad enough for, a majority of the populace, while most of that money, that wealth has accumulated at the top, usually something happens to knock those people off the top. And so they can either do it, and this is not a threat, but they can either do it voluntarily to redistribute a little bit of their wealth, and they can still be wealthy. They can still be millionaires, right? And they can still have the best of everything and still have a lot of money. But you've got to do some redistribution so that everybody else can have a chance too. Everybody going to have a chance for education and to have healthcare. That's like the opposite of fascism. And that is the opposite of being oppressed. It's actually having opportunity, like healthcare and education, etc. So, and look, instead of going down that road of like the bad road, let's choose the good road, right? Let's go back to the tax rates when we were in the 1960s, when the economy was booming and the middle class was large and it was vibrant. So, that would be my suggestion. Now, that said, right? So we went through the segment, and it's out there, and Media Matters tweeted this out, and it had some pretty good responses. So I'm going to read a couple of those. Now, Alex Wilde tweeted in a very good point. He said, Ben Stein's party literally built internment camps for children in the United States. That is a devastating point. Michael Raskin says, Ben Stein to America, be poor and be happy you are. And you enjoy that cake. Why don't you just eat cake, poor people? God damn. Why don't you do that? Now, there's a couple more fun ones now. Annika Baranti Klein says, we failed to take away Ben Stein's money when we had the chance. In reference to that old show. And then Stefan Sirasek, along the same line, says, new game show, tax Ben Stein's money. Yes. Look, here's the thing. More serious point to end on. You know what all this doom and gloom talk from the rich means? Again, Ben Stein's a very wealthy person. pretty much everybody on Fox News and on television itself is fairly wealthy. They're all the same ones that are talking about how radical and how terrible this is. Well, you know who supports this tax policy? The American people. A large majority, even Republicans, right? Throughout every geographic area, support higher marginal taxes on the rich. That's why they constantly beat the drum. Venezuela, right? Punishing your rich. Why are you punishing the rich? They're just going to take your assets and they're going to leave. Why you got to punish wealth and success? They constantly beat that drum because they're afraid that they're losing. They're actually going to have to part with a little bit of their wealth. Again, those numerous polls show that a majority of the American people, about 59%, agree with their tax policy. And you have mainstream economists, Paul Krugman in the New York Times, saying actually her proposals are actually pretty modest and they make a lot of sense. It's only those rich people who feel threatened, right? Or the people at Davos who are pretty much laughing at the situation and calling people who believe in that 70% marginal tax rate communists, like Bill Gates, right? He was one of the ones who laughed. Look, man, you're going to call people who believe in that communists, and you're pretty much calling most of the American population, over half of them, communists. So you might want to not do that because it's ridiculous. So, no, it's only those people who think this is crazy because in reality, all they want to do is just hold on to their money. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.